power classes, and I had a healing ministry on the internet, like through ICQ, and now I'm on Paltalk, and I was in through Yahoo chat and things like that. And I found that when I put my mind on it, and someone wanted me to heal them, I'd heal them straight away, because I knew that, you know, Jesus said to me, start doing it, you know, actually start doing these things and experience these inner feelings. And so when I wrote my website, at that time it was called Seek Safely His Truth. Seek safely, in other words, don't fear to seek the truth, and it's His truth, it's the truth of the Creator that created you. Seek it safely, without fear. And I wrote a few mirror sites of this thing. It's down now, I mean there might be still one thing up there, but it's an old, early version. But I learned a lot through writing that, and when the elders of the church discovered, well, I sort of let them know that, you know, there was a registry in the church, and every year you'd have to put down your telephone number, your address, any changes, etc., etc. And at that time, people were getting websites, and so they said, well, put down your website or your email or whatever. So I put down my website, you know, seeksafelyhistruth.com, or whatever it was, and many people started coming up to me and saying, Grant, what are you talking about? You're talking something completely different to what they're bringing out from the pulpit. And I said, well, you know, I see things differently, and I suppose I'm here really to practice and experiment with myself, to become my own guinea pig, and to see just what I could bring through myself in the way of healing and reaching out to others, and teach myself, you know, this Christed life. And so I would be in the church, and people would come up to me and say, well, Grant, you know, you said on your website that you healed this or you did that. And I said, well, God did it through me. It's me with Him, but it's like us. You know, so I'm not separate. It's like I become the expression and the outworking of the power that descends through me to flow into time, to correct the errors in the hologram in someone else's mind along with mine. And so I became an instrument of healing, and people would come up to me and say, Grant, I've got this problem, you know, like irritable bowel. Can you heal me? I said, yeah. So as soon as they asked me, like, with sincerity, and I could see that they were not testing me to see, you know, if I could demonstrate a miracle, but they really believed that what was going to happen through me was going to happen, and it did, you know, many, many times. But someone else would come up to me, and they had heard what I'd done, and they'd come up and say, well, can you do this? I said, no, I can't do that. Like, I couldn't pretend. It has to be authentic. It has to be an attunement of a person wanting the help, and the help coming forth, and the Christ in him receiving the Christ in me, and something that's in between as a discrepancy being dissolved in the light of the presence. And so I found, you know, believing that what Jesus did was true, and it's true for me and it's true for you, if I could demonstrate it to myself, I would increase in the frequency and the flow of the currents of life. In other words, I would bring divine alignment in my temple, and the inner parts of my structure, knocking at the doorway of expression to come out into the world and to shine the light of holiness, you know, out there. I would be opening opportunities, you know, everywhere, and that happens. I mean, I wanted it, and it came, and many, many times it was very, very, I'd say, fearful, because in the awakening process, it's like, hey, you mean to say, you know, I have to speak in front of someone? You mean to say, you know, this and that? But the more I listened to the voice, the more sure I was that it was already done before I took a step. It was, I heard it, and it says, like, by the hearing of the word, faith comes. In other words, if you hear the word, it's not the Bible. I mean, a lot of Christians think that the word of God is the Bible. It's not. It's the voice for God. It's the voice of God. It's the living expression emanating through you that already says, I'm doing it. And if you walk into it, if you step into that expression, if you step into it, the faith is that it's already done. And when you like become the actor to carry that through your own expression, it happens. It's already happened. And that's what I found for myself, you know, that I put myself on the spot all the time. You know, you're going to be the cutting edge. You can't take a back seat. It's like, you know, you come forth, you step forth, you're the cutting edge. You know, if you're going to cut away and make a swath, you're going to cut a path in the jungle, you're going to have to be at the front there with a machete cutting the path. You can't be hiding in the jungle thinking a path is going to come forth for you. It's like you're going to be the participator in that. You're going to be the one who's the actor on the stage as God works through you, because God's working through you and your experience is growing through the faith that's flowing, and the grace and the knowing is bestowing a completely different configuration on the world. It's changing things around you, and your whole field changes. And when you walk into that, it's like absolutely amazing feeling, you know. It feels good. It feels good. And at the same time, well, you don't get too complacent and say, hey, your ego kicks in and says, yeah, I can do that. Well, the ego can't do it, you know. It's like, but you're sort of letting that Christ come, and the joy that rises. It's not like a feeling of pride that the ego thinks it can do it. The ego is still intermingling with your fields, and you know, well, it's taking a back seat. You know, it's saying, well, you know, I'll have to give up. Maybe I've got to sort of go along with this guy a bit, you know, and maybe I'll convert some of those old thoughts that I had, doing a bit of magic or something. Maybe I thought I could do some magic and manipulate the veil. Maybe I thought I could manipulate the illusion, like those old programmers set in my consciousness and put in my DNA, and thought I could do some black magic or something or other, you know, to manipulate the veil from a very high frequency in amongst the lower densities. You could come down and descend into this earth as a magician, or as someone who could work, you know, signs and wonders or something. But it's not about the manifestation, it's about the dissolving of the partitions of time in which the record of illusion is stored as an overlay against your precious mind. You know, it's like you're not here to manipulate the veil, you're here to unveil the Christ. You know, the veils of time in which records are held, that's the blight upon you, that's your dark night, that's what's holding you away from knowing yourself through the clarity of your mind. So I found that, you know, I'm going to demonstrate it to myself, because, well, Jesus, what did he say? He believed in God, and it happened. And, well, same for me, same for you. You are Christ too. You know, I had a lot of struggle in the church. You know, they took away my ministries, like I was saying. I wrote the website, and people, you know, reading the website, and then the elders were instructed by the pastor, etc., to go and read all of the pages that I'd written, and they called me a heretic. You know, what a blessing! What a blessing to be called a heretic by the church, which is speaking a little bit of, you know, a bit of nonsense themselves. And so obviously nothing was happening there in that regard, but I learned a lot. And they cancelled all of my ministries. I had the school ministry, the men's ministry. I was doing a few other things, you know, in the church and things, whatever. And they painted me black in the morning service and in the night service. They painted me black, and they said, whatever you do, don't go to Grant Barlow. He's a heretic, you know. Don't go and receive any of his teachings or healings or anything. You know, in other words, they're saying he's doing healings. But as soon as they said that, everyone came up and said, well, we didn't know you had a website. Well, what is it? So I told them, and they went and had a look. But they're a bit loyal to the old system, because they're so well entrenched in those thoughts and dogmas and creeds and, you know, all those energies that run through the teaching, well embedded and entrenched into the tracks in time that, you know, represent their mind, bound here, you know. And so it was very hard to change them, but I was prepared to change myself. And one of the good things that happened, like this is an amazing thing that happened. The elders called me in and said, Grant, we're going to have to discommunicate you from the church, you know. So anyway, would you come? No, they didn't say that first up, but that was their intention. And so I had this dream about a week before, and the dream was I was a dog walking around the neighbourhood, you know, looking around, sniffing about, and this other dog said to me, do you want to come and play at my place? Oh yeah, I'll come and play at your place. So we went in the backyard, and then he had all his other friends there, like about 6 or 7 other dogs, you know, and they're all playing around, looking, smiling, laughing at me, you know, and then they sort of, I'm in the centre, and then they sort of started getting down on their belly, creeping in, and as they crept in all around me, then their mouth started to bare their teeth and growl and snarl, and they were going to pull me apart, right? So that was the vision that I had of what was going to happen, and I was totally prepared for it. And I got sick actually. I never get sick. And I got sick a couple of days before, and it was cold and the flu, and I was thinking, no, maybe I won't go. And God said, go, but don't say anything. Let them do all the talking, and don't say anything. If you hear me speak, speak, but don't, apart from that, say nothing, you know. So anyway, I went, and I'm sitting there, and there's 6 or 7 elders, and the pastors are there, you know, and they're reeling off all of the accusations and all of the blaming and everything else and all my false doctrines and everything else, you know, and it was like I was sitting there in a bulletproof vest. It was like I had this glow around me that every bullet or whatever they were firing at me just it didn't touch me. It's like I was totally innocent and shielded and protected. And they said, well, aren't you going to defend yourself? And I didn't answer. They said, look, you know, you've got to say something. And then God started to speak. And every scripture that they quoted against me, I countered it with a... I don't know where I pulled them out of, but it was like, it totally showed them that they were making something out of nothing and that they knew nothing about the truth. And in the end, they all came up to me and hugged me. And they all came up and they just hugged me. And at that moment, it was a precious moment, you know. For speaking truth, the way it was flowing as God flowed through me,